Theresa May's split with her cabinet has always been over the Brexit plan. Officials in Brussels have described her plan, agreed on Friday, with a sort of an association and common rules and an infrastructure for managing it, as a non-starter. Because behind the plan always are the four freedoms, the four pillars of the EU. Now, you'll be familiar, we've talked about them many times on this programme. They're freedom of goods, freedom of services, freedom of capital, and freedom of labour, or freedom of people. Freedom of movement, it's often called. The Chequers Agreement keeps the freedom for goods. It puts limits on anything else, recognising that services are not part of it, recognising the same thing for capital in the City of London, that London may require a different regulatory structure, and most importantly of all, it does not grant freedom of movement of people to other EU citizens. However, the EU, perhaps not surprisingly, has warned it's all or nothing. Theresa May says the EU's negotiators should show some flexibility, and Parliament clearly doesn't think that will happen.
What we are proposing is challenging for the EU. It requires them... It requires them to think again, to look beyond the positions they've taken so far, and agree a new and fair balance of rights and obligations.
The banks, however, even with the four pillars, are not waiting for the British government to sort out its policy. If you look already, BlackRock and Citi are expanding their businesses in Paris. They're not abandoning London just yet, but they are changing the shift of their priorities. And they join a host of other financial institutions, from Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs famously. Lloyd Blankfein has made some very strong comments about leaving London, all adding staff outside the United Kingdom, with Frankfurt, Dublin and Paris the favourite destinations so far. So now, David Davis, the Brexit secretary as was, and Boris Johnson, the former foreign secretary, have gone. The co-chairman of the Leave Means Leave campaign tells me he hopes the pace of resignations will pick up. John Longworth was the head of the British Chamber of Commerce. He placed the blame on the departures slowly and firmly at Theresa May's feet.
It's no doubt unfortunate for the Prime Minister, but then she should have thought of that before presenting a policy that crossed her own red lines and went against the Conservative Party manifesto. A policy that actually means not Brexit, but Brexit in name only.
Shouldn't both of those men have resigned over the weekend after the government put out its statement? That statement, that three-page statement, was perfectly clear about what the UK policy was going to be in relation to maintaining customs union and, to a certain extent, single market.
Well, I can't speak for the individuals concerned, of course, and I was hoping that there would be resignations on Friday, but clearly they've had to think about it very carefully, about what the impact would be on the Conservative Party and on the country. But they have come to the right decision. You know, if the Brexit secretary says that this deal is not actually Brexit, that tells us something, doesn't it? And I think if the foreign secretary made his point on Friday and it was ignored, he's right to resign.
Would you expect, or would you hope for more resignations?
I hope for more resignations. Whether there will be any remains to be seen, and what happens next is a matter of politics. But certainly the best chance, the best hope for the Conservative Party and the government now is that they actually conduct the will of the people and produce a policy that is in fact Brexit. They need to declare now for a World Trade Organization global trade system from March next year to leave without a deal and offer the European Union the possibility of a free trade arrangement like they have with Canada, and that will actually provide a better outcome for the UK economy and the UK people. And of course, that's the deal under which the UK does most of its exporting now under World Trade Organization rules.
It does and it doesn't, as you are well aware, because the sophistry of the argument is that it ignores the close manufacturing links that are essential with the EU, cross-border, within a customs union. And most studies suggest that if you disrupt that in the way of a hard Brexit, it will have very damaging implications for the UK economy?
No, it's been massively overblown. Economists for free trade have identified that actually by leaving the European Union properly, the UK economy will be boosted by up to 7% of GDP. That's like an additional 1/3 in our growth rate every year for 15 years. Only 8% of UK businesses export to the EU. That represents only 13% of the economy. Most trade with the EU takes place under WTO rules without any trade arrangements whatsoever. It's perfectly possible to do so. And customs arrangements with the rest of the world, which operate without any trade arrangements, work perfectly well. It's a well-tried and tested system.
I still have difficulty understanding why people like yourself are so optimistic in the face of so many studies, surveys, academics. Yes, there are some who say it'll all be fine, but you have to agree the preponderance of views is that it won't be fine, that it will be bad, and that Britain will suffer outside. That is the preponderance of view.
Well, there are a massive number of entrepreneurs, and we have a large number of businesses in our network who actually don't agree with that. It's the entrepreneurial parts, the private business-owned part of the economy that is very optimistic, that embrace change, that are actually ones who enjoy and look forward to new ideas and innovation. It's the Luddites in the CBI, the Confederation of British Industry, and the big corporations who want to keep things exactly as they are because they have it stitched up. Right. They have protectionism, and they like the monopoly profits that they make.